Welcome to Bird Camp Radio, where the coveys rise from the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and the shelf rock ledges. Here at camp, the fire's always glowing, the dogs are never far, and the stories of birds, wild places, and the upland life are just beginning. This is Bird Camp Radio. Welcome everyone to Bird Camp Radio. This is our fourth week now on the Bird Camp Radio podcast, where we're going to have our next guest. And I am once again excited to have this guest on. For the past few weeks, we've actually spent a lot of time with uplanders in the Arizona area, and now we get to go up northwest and now spend some time up in Oregon with my buddy Tanner Krewson. Tanner sent in a bio just a little bit earlier, and I'm going to read that real quick so we can get to know him a little bit better. At 32 years old, Tanner Krewson is an avid upland hunter based in Oregon, who along with his two pointing dogs pursue 9 different bird species from September through January and travels whenever possible to chase a few more. He first experienced bird hunting as a kid, usually without a dog and as a side pursuit during big game seasons. It wasn't until age 25 that he hunted over a pointing dog for the first time, and he was instantly hooked. The following spring, he and his wife Callie brought home a French Brittany named Hayward from Sunburst Kennels in Idaho. Not long after, they rescued an American Brittany named Charlie from a local shelter, a dog whose story and training journey Callie later shared in Hunting Dog Confidential magazine. In 2021, Tanner began guiding whitewater and upland hunts in Hell's Canyon alongside his dogs. The rugged canyon country offers a remarkable hunting experience where a determined and prepared hunter might encounter up to 6 or even 7 huntable species in a single day. Hell's Canyon holds endless adventure. Callie, an accomplished outdoor writer and storyteller, has contributed multiple pieces to Project Upland, including a feature film and accompanying article in Project Upland magazine about her float-in ruffed grouse hunt in Oregon. She began writing when she started hunting as a way to learn faster, and it quickly grew into a passion of its own. This fall, Tanner is taking a season off from guiding to spend time with his family. His son was born on opening day of Oregon's bird season, but he looks forward to returning to the field soon. So, Tanner, we're excited to have you on here today, man. How are you doing?
I'm great. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, this is exciting, and I just want to say congratulations on my part and the behalf of all of our listeners. Congratulations on the birth of your son. And man, dude, that's great. That's super exciting. It looks like you have another bird hunter coming up.
Let's hope so.
Well, kind of just diving into it. As you know, and as our listeners know, we like to play a little game of rapid fire around the campfire, which consists of 10 different questions about you and your personal interests and ideas of upland game. We do have a leaderboard. As of right now, we have 3 others who are on this leaderboard. And it will be timed, so I'll try to get through these questions as fast as I can, and if you can answer them as quick as you can, that will be great. So whenever you're ready, just let me know.
All right, shoot.
All right, here we go. Favorite bird to hunt? Favorite shotgun gauge? Morning or evening hunts? Favorite dog breed? Game bag or vest? Go-to field snack?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Solo or with friends?
With friends.
Public or private land? Dream upland hunting location?
Alaska.
Limit or memories?
Limits make memories.
Oh, that's a good answer. All right, that's all 10 questions, man. That was great. We will, what we've been doing, we've been releasing the time at the end of the podcast, so we'll release that at the end in a different section. So thank you again, man. That was great. So going into this, I mean, as many people know who've listened to the podcast, our followers, this is a community-based podcast of uplanders. And what we like to do is focus on each uplander and their common interests. So I would like to really focus on your bio today, get to know you a little bit better, and kind of segue back into your early hunting roots as a young hunter when it all began. So if you just want to talk about that for just a little bit, your early hunting roots and how you got into it, um, and why you continue to stay in the upland tradition.
Yeah, so my family was actually predominantly rifle elk hunters, right? Big game hunters. From the coast, we've got the Roosevelt elk over on the coast, and that is where most of the hunting portion of my family's from. So that's kind of the tradition I come from. Grouse were, like I said, just kind of auxiliary to big game for me. So like we put up a wall tent in the mountains, and if I didn't want to go ride around and look for elk, I could take a 22 and go wander around up above camp and try and kick a rough grouse out of the firs or something. So that was the most exposure to upland I had as a kid. But we picked mushrooms. We spent a lot of time in the mountains, whitewater rafting, drift boating, salmon steelhead fishing. We're really big in growing up in Central Oregon. We've got the Deschutes and the John Day right here. Some pretty world class steelhead fishing.
Oh wow.
So that's kind of what I grew up doing. And then I moved away from home. I was 18, 19, and moving all over the Pacific Northwest, like to different states, Washington, Idaho. Everybody's got different laws, and to be you know a traveling big game hunter costs a lot of money. To go out of state and get an elk tag. If when I was living in Washington, if I wanted to come home and hunt elk with my family, it was really expensive. But everywhere that I went, I could get an upland bird stand for like $25 and just go wander around and find grouse. So it was kind of like while I was living away from home, just stomping around looking for grouse in the hills was like a way to feel like I was outside. Um, And then, like I said in my bio, about the time I turned 25, I started running around with some guys that ran pointy dogs, and never seen that happen before. So we went out on the local pheasant marsh over in the town we lived in Eastern Oregon. I got to see, point, shot, retrieve a couple times, and then I was pretty hooked.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. Um,
My wife into getting a pup, and then it didn't take us very long to end up with another one, and so
Everything kind of
after
escalated.
kind of both of us jumped with both feet. Like I said, she started writing because she felt like it could help her learn faster. And then, it led to me having a videographer in the front of my boat chasing her down the river at low waters.
That's all. Wow. Yeah, that it's amazing to see like that transition. I mean, growing up for myself, my dad was a very avid mule deer hunter and elk hunter, and as of course with that, I mean, as you did as well, grouse were a part of that. Just in between, up on the mountain, we'd always be up there with the horses. We still do, and that's one of my most favorite things is just hunting grouse on the side of a big game hunt. Keeps you busy, keeps you going. I mean, and like I said, and what you said before is, I feel like with upland game, at least here in Utah, we're able to hunt it basically year round. And for me, I just love that. I mean, I love big game, I do, but like you said, like I mean, we only get it only so many times throughout the year, and I mean, besides that, I mean, it's also expensive, like you said, outside going out of state. It's kind of difficult that way.
I'm sure you live in a Western state. I'm sure that it's the same thing for you. Like lottery tags are just a drag a lot of the time. So many people want to hunt anymore that, by the time it's your turn, you can't remember what the unit looks like anymore. So,
For sure. Yeah, it's exactly that.
it, since I started running around with my bird dogs, I know where the elk and the unit are a lot more often than I used to.
Right. No, that's great. Kind of focusing on that aspect. Um, for you, you didn't grow up necessarily with the dogs. It kind of came with your buddies. It sounded like
Mm.
throughout the years.
Growing up, my dad had some friends that had waterfowl retrievers that were they were good dogs, but they weren't home dogs.
Right. See, and that's what's great is like for me. I mean, I got to grow up with the bird dogs, but now my wife and I are renting. We can't have a dog. We can't have dogs. We can't run dogs. So it's like kind of a different aspect of what you're dealing with. You now you have the opportunity to hunt behind those dogs. And what's that like for you from going not necessarily with the dogs to being able to pursue upland game with your own dogs, getting into it, going from a casual bird hunter to a passionate uplander.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the place that I lived when I got my dog was pretty conducive to training a dog on wild birds. When I first got both my dogs, we lived in Northeast Oregon, and from my front door in Northeast Oregon, I could get to any one of 6 or 7 of our upland species in Oregon within like 90 minutes. So, if I woke up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning and decided I wanted to go chukar hunting, I could be chukar hunting by daylight. So, or, same thing with blue grouse or pheasant or, valley quail, name it, whatever I decided I wanted to go chase that day, I could probably find it within an hour of the house. So that that made it really easy to just go all the time. Having one of Oregon's largest public pheasant marshes, like 15 minutes from my front door, made it pretty easy.
Wow, that's great. Being able to have that. And I mean, um, earlier today, as we were talking about a little bit before this call, I had the opportunity to listen to your wife, Callie, a few of her articles, and I can't remember which part or which article it was, but she spoke a little bit about the amount of public land Oregon has. And I can't remember, it's like 56% of the state is like public land. Is that right? Yeah.
So
I was just like, wow, that is crazy. Like, I love to hear that, see that you guys have that opportunity to get out there and hunt. Man, you guys have so many different species and just a great country to hunt.
yeah, and the cool thing, one of the really cool things about like particularly Columbia Basin country, North Central Oregon or Northeast Oregon or even like deep Southeast Oregon, there's so much public property that all you have to do is start climbing and you'll start seeing different species. You can park in creek bottom and get out, and if you're close enough to tilled ground and white wheat for the winter, you might kick out some roosters or some valley quail, and then you start stomping up the hill into the canyon looking for chuckers, and they're probably up there. And then you could break over the crown and get up into the bench country, and there's almost always huns in the benches. So you could do it. You could do all of those in an afternoon if you know where.
So yeah, just being able to know where it's at, you can get into a complete diverse and quite the variety of birds just in a day. That just amazes me. So I love that. I mean, me and my wife had the opportunity a little bit earlier this year, I believe in April, to go and visit Oregon for the first time for both of us. And I still tell her to this day, I mean, I've been able to visit quite a few of the 50 states. And gosh, I tell her, I'm like, Oregon's by far my favorite state I've visited. Like, gosh, you guys got it figured out there. I swear. Man, I love it.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all.
That's good. That's good. So, kind of going off the dog aspect, how did you decide on French Brittany's? Like, how did you get into French Brittany's and decide that was your niche?
The guy that I hunted with the most often had a French Brit that was just a banger dog. Like we used to say that you'd be better off with the entirety of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on your ass. If you were a wounded quail, you would be better off with the RCMP or the FBI trying to find you.
That's awesome.
So I went and talked to that dog's breeders and got to hunt behind my dog's parents. And after I met the mom and dad, I put my money down and waited my turn because I was pretty sold. They're pretty awesome dogs. Not too big, not too small. Really, really tenacious. The creep that is kind of unique to French Brittany's is really, I would not unique. Monsterlanders will do it too. I've seen other dogs do it, but it's pretty satisfying to walk into a point and tap your dog on the head and have them maintain the pointing posture and glide across the ground like a bobcat until they stop again. It's really, really cool to watch.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So you have Hayward and Charlie, right? Those are your 2 dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about them. And I mean, Charlie, he was rescued in training, and then your wife did an article on him. Let's hear a little bit about those guys.
Yeah. So yeah, Hayward came from Sunburst, over in Idaho, and he uh was just really fun to train. Really, really tenacious little dog. He's bald on his chest now because he crawls really tight to the ground when we rough grouse hunt. Um, Good dog. Charlie is a really interesting kind of story. My mother-in-law lived in the same town as us, and she did a lot of work with like the feral cat problem that we had around there. So she would do the trap, neuter, and rehome program. So she was in and out of the pound a lot. And she just sent me a picture one afternoon and was like, "This is a bird dog." And I was like, "Yeah, that is a bird dog." She was like, "Well, you should come and see this bird dog because he's freaking out being in a cage." And so I agreed to go sign foster papers for him. Um, and then, I had a couple of friends that were looking to get a bird dog. So I called those guys and was like, "Hey, I got Saturday off. I got this dog that I'm trying to foster. Come over and check him out." Um, and so, I signed foster paper on a Thursday afternoon. And by Friday evening, my wife called me at work and was like, "We're keeping the dog."
She was like, "Yep."
So, that was during COVID. So she was working from home, doing accounting stuff, and just got to hang out with him at the house all day long. So they bonded pretty good. And she decided that, she didn't really want anybody else to have him. And then I had the chore of training Charlie, which, um, man, what a big motor in that. I'd helped, I'd seen a handful of other dogs, helped a couple of buddies race, you know, trained up and raised their dogs, do the gun introduction and all of that stuff. So I had a pretty good idea. But Charlie just was like impossible to keep up with. The first year I had him, I felt like I was hunting like at a dead sprint the whole time.
Okay.
Uh, just just because he was so big running and never slowed down. Um, but again, we were in a place where I had so many wild birds that I could let him run through a tubby now and then, and all he was going to do was learn.
Wow.
And so he just started to figure out, his first season, he was running through coveys and would barely stop for anything. And then his second season, I was guiding over him, and having people tell me how amazing this dog was. That these are guys that have read about the Ellis Canyon chukar hunt their whole lives. These are bird dog guys come out from Illinois and Wisconsin, and and they look at this dog and they're like, "You got something here." And I'm thinking, man, I got a dog from a pound. I know better now.
Right, right.
If I could go back and find Charlie before he got surrendered to the pound the first time before they fixed him, I Man, if you could turn back time, I would love to have puppies out of that dog.
Oh, for sure. It's kinda interesting. I mean, not exactly the same kinda story, but my dad, one of the dogs that I grew up hunting behind was a black Labrador named Tell, and, one day my dad was just driving, I believe, coming home from work, and, just found this puppy on the side of the road, and it was our dog Tell, and he ended up becoming my dad's best hunting dog out there. I mean, he could outhunt any dog around at least this area. And it's just kind of funny how I've heard many stories where it's these dogs that come from kind of the same situation as your dog or
There's
that
something
just found. I know.
about rescues, like, you give them an opportunity to hunt, especially a dog that's bred to hunt.
Right.
If you give a rescued dog that is a hunting dog an opportunity to hunt their first time and they take to it, like, Charlie just hunts like he's grateful for the opportunity. That dog, he's so much fun to watch. It's just all glee. He
Right.
likes to run. And, the first people to have him didn't let him run.
Right. He didn't get that opportunity and now he's taking advantage of it now. It's just amazing.
He loves it so much that I got to throw the brakes on him or he hurts himself. He's, like you said, he's got a big motor on it. He'll run right to your barbed wire fence and take the flinch.
Wow, he's just going.
Oh, yeah.
He's got one thing in mind.
About a week after we moved to Madras, he had to go in and get 19 stitches from a barbed wire fence.
Really.
Yeah.
He's got some go.
Yeah, he's big running dog, but he's awesome, awesome, especially on the prairie birds. Your huns and checkers, and I've had him out east on sharktail a couple times. He's just so staunch and so big running. It's really cool to get to stand on a hill and watch him stop at like almost 300 yards and then hold point for the whatever 12 or 15 minutes that it takes you to pick your way down through the talus slide and get to him. And then the birds might be there, they might have walked out, but he's still going to go try and relocate. He's a great dog. Um, I've I've had a lot of fun hunting him.
It's always fun being able to have a dog like that, you know? I love it. So, kinda leading into the next part, and you kinda mentioned this a little bit earlier talking about your dogs, is, guiding in Hell's Canyon. You started as a guide back in 2021. Um, you spend most of your time in that area?
Yeah, so it's kind of been an interesting saga. My wife got in got accepted to medical school in 2020. And so we sold our house and she moved up to the city that her med school was in. And I was working construction, had a pretty good project. So I stayed around to finish that project up. And then just talking to some people that I knew while I was there, they were like, "Hey, you can row a boat and you got bird dogs? Like, we know these people that need a hand." And so I went and ran uh, a baggage trip in Northeast Oregon on the Little River for an outfitter. And then they asked me to do another trip. And when I was on my way over the hill with all of my stuff for that trip, one of them called me and was like, "Hey, do you have your gun and your dogs?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" It's like, "Well, we had somebody get hurt. You've been promoted to chukar guide." So uh, just kind of fell backwards into it, to be honest. Was in the right place at the right time. Uh, and had dogs and the ability to row a boat. So
Wow, just kinda got thrown into it.
yeah, just kind of I knew the right, like I said, I knew the right people. I was in the right place at the right time. Had nothing better to do than go hurl myself off of waterfalls. So
Wow, that's quite the experience.
yeah, Hell's is a really really fun place. I've been down there four whole seasons, 4+ seasons now. Um, I do in the summertime. I'm just a whitewater guide, so I've done a couple seasons of a wine and food trip where we, take a rotating cast of winemakers and a sommelier, and then we have a catered menu from a Michelin chef, and go do a heat and serve thing, and talk about wine on the riverbank. People really like that kind of thing, and it's fun. Like, don't get me wrong, it is so much fun. But I joke with people all the time that I put up with June, July, and August so that I can have September, October, and November.
No, that makes sense. That's awesome.
Y- You know, so it's a really cool spot. So starting, let's see, Idaho chukar season, Idaho upland season opens the second or third weekend in September most years. And so I start typically that week, launching on the upper portion of the canyon from Hell's Canyon Dam. And we'll take 4 or 5 days to boat 34, 32 miles, something like that, down to Pittsburgh Landing. So we'll take two layover days. The Idaho side of the river is open, so we'll hunt the Idaho side. Typically, camp on the Oregon side because it gets a little better sun that time of year, and it is not. It's not very much fun to stand on the cold side of the river and drink your coffee in the ice while you watch everyone in the warm side of the river stretch in the sun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
We try to camp on the west side of the river when it gets cold, even though the hunting is on the east side for that first couple weeks. And then come the second week of October, Oregon upland season opens. You're good to hunt both sides of the river, provided you have both licenses. And then I alter my trips a little bit after that. I still am stoked to go and put in at the dam after October, but it's starting to get cold that time of year, and not everybody wants to go ride off a class 4 rapids, way the air temperatures in the 50s.
Oh, yeah, I don't blame them.
I mean, my guides are good. Like, we'll do our best to keep you dry, except for the like 3 waves that are non-negotiable.
So that makes it special and challenging all at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's an adventure hunt for sure. So yeah, and then going down into the canyon, you're you're in a pretty isolated place. You'll see some jet boats in the fall. Salmon steelhead fishermen, folks down there looking for the fabled sturgeon. I I'm just scratching the surface as far as sturgeon fishing goes down there. It's a bunch of fun. Those big fish are really cool.
See, that's something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to go sturgeon fish.
Go try it, or come up and see me and we'll try it. They are
For sure,
amazing.
man, because I have no idea how to even go about it, honestly.
It's a little bit of a steep learning curve out of a raft. I spent several seasons down there watching these guys in the jet boats that would boat them all the time. And then I realized that, like, well, they've got, a pair of 460 horse engines and attached to a jet pump. They can go upstream in the whitewater and I can't. So the rules are a little bit different out of a raft.
Wow.
You gotta pick your battles a little carefully.
Right, that makes sense. Wow, that's crazy. I'm gonna definitely have to take you up on that offer at some point. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing place. Second week of October in Hell's Canyon, you can still get some 75-degree days if you're lucky, but it's going to get cold at night. There's salmon and steelhead starting to come into the system pretty reliably at that point. The Idaho Power, who, they're the administrator of the dam, so they get to control the flows. During the summer, it's a power generation dam, so it spikes 10,000 cubic feet a day, which is like 7 vertical feet of water in some portions of the canyon, which is really annoying. You tie your boats off, and then the river picks them up at night and sets them somewhere else, because it comes up and drops back down 6 or 7 feet in some places. But in the fall, they've negotiated for salmon and steelhead production that, starting about the second week of October, they have to lock it down at 8,700 or or 9,000 or what have you for 60 days straight. So the flows don't change at that point, and then all of the fishing becomes a lot more reliable and feels like a normal river. During the summer, when that dam is going up and down, it feels more like fishing the coast because there's a tide.
Okay. Wow. Man, it's a roller coaster. Man, there's quite a bit that goes into that.
Yeah, it's not there are a lot of places that are easy to be outside. Hell's Canyon's not an easy to be outside place. It's got a pretty steep learning curve. You will break and lose equipment if you don't know.
Right. But it's definitely worth the experience if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, down there in October, you get to float right past elk that are bugling. There'll be bighorn rams right on the water. Like, like we talked about, there's a couple of places down there where if you know how to pick your way up through the basins and find the springs, you can get into valley quail, mountain quail, chukar, of course, because it's Hell's Canyon, uh, Hungarian partridge, rough grouse, wild turkey, and potentially, if you were willing to walk high enough in one day, you could potentially see a dusky grouse up at the top. I've talked to elk hunters who hike in to the bench country from the top side, and they see lots of blue grouse. But the blue grouse are, a good 3,000 feet above water level, so it's a hike.
Right. Right.
Uh, Aside from the blue grouse, though, I have had days in Hell's Canyon where all six of those other species ended up in my boat by the end of the afternoon. So
Really. See, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Like, so the appeal of chasing so many species at the same time like that, not many people have that kind of opportunity. What is it like to strategize and plan across those kind of habitats to hunt like so many different species? Like, because that's just a great opportunity.
well, yeah, Hell's Canyon is the steepest and deepest river gorge in North America, or at least in the United States. It's taller and narrower and deeper in size than the Grand Canyon by a fair amount. So that's really what creates the the variety in Hell's is just all of that aspect and elevation. You start down at river level, you're down below 2,000 feet of elevation, and you're in the desert. You're looking at prickly pear cactus and hackberry trees, and uh, it's you know it's pretty dry except for the water that's in the river. Rocky, dry grass, but it starts to climb in a hurry. And so if you're looking for valley quail, you're probably looking somewhere like at the toe of the old homesteads on the Oregon side of the river. There are a bunch of them, like probably a dozen that come down and touch the water. And all those homesteaders, they brought food in them with them, right? They brought cherry trees and they brought plums and they brought blackberries and all of that. So all those homesteads are just covered in blackberry. And that's where you're going to start looking for your valley quail. And you might take a wild turkey out of there. Similarly, almost all of those homesteads are on a creek mouth that runs water because House is a dry place. So you want to get into rough grouse, you just stay in that running creek and go uphill until the dogs go on point. They're gonna be in there somewhere. They associate with the water and the plants that live on the water. And if you get more than 100 feet either direction from the water, you're in the desert again.
Right. No, that makes sense. So, with that, which species do you think is the most challenging to hunt on Hell's Canyon?
In House Canyon, I
Yeah.
would say the most challenging upland species in Hell's Canyon, I think, are the mountain quail. Um, they're harder to locate. They they want to live on the same kind of like vertical, nasty, tall escape cover, lots of rocks and stuff like that that chuckers do. Uh, but they want it to be covered with rough grouse cover. So, like if you can imagine a chucker hill plastered with blackberry, that's what you're looking for.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's not an awesome place for a human or a dog. That's why the birds want to be there. But They're super challenging. They run like a bunch of little pheasants until you pin them, and then for whatever reason, in my experience, they hold just so beautifully for the dogs. Uh, and then that's still not a given because they fly like a bottle rocket. Um, they I don't know. Did you ever have those fireworks when you were a kid that were like the ground fountain and you light them and they go up in the air about 4 or 5 feet and then they like take a 90-degree turn and tumble sideways?
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're
That's
talking
what
about.
a valley or that's what a mountain quail flush looks like.
Okay, yeah, I've never hunted them, so
They come up 4, 5, maybe 10 feet off the ground, and then they scatter every direction and start. I swear they barrel roll sideways. I know that they don't turn all the way over in the air like a coin, but when you watch them flush, it looks like they turn all the way over. They're so fast. It's a bunch of.
that sounds like a lot of fun. So with that, I mean, you have so many variety of birds that you're hunting in this area. What's it like for your dogs to adjust between those species? I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about them hunting those mountain quail, but what's it like from one species to the next?
Uh, I think the dogs being immersed in that kind of variety, they're just bird hunting. They hit scent, and it doesn't really matter where they're at. They're gonna handle it like it's a bird. Uh, the most of the adjustment comes for you, the guide or the dog handler mentally. I spent a lot of time in Hell's Canyon as a guide, walking up on points, trying to figure out by where we are, what I've seen, what the dog's doing, what kind of cover they're pointing at, what is going to come off of that flush. And then I got to decide where I'm going to put my dudes with their guns so they can shoot that flush. Cause like if I'm, if I think it's chukars and I'm wrong and it's a rough grouse, none of my guns are going to be in the right spot.
Right. That
But
makes
if I'm
sense.
convinced it's a rough grouse and it's 30 chukars, I'm going to feel like,
Right. Yeah. I get that. So it's more of not as much of a worry when it comes to the dogs. It's more of coming to human error.
more, yeah, it's more human error or just like knowing, having that feel for each of the species and their habitats to just like try and be able to guess what that flush is going to look like. And I've been wrong a lot. Like I said, I've had super staunch points that I thought was a single valley quail that was going to come up right in front of the gun, and it was a hen turkey.
Wow. That is crazy. Wow,
And
man.
yeah, it's mind blowing. A lot of times, you know you wander up one creek bed and down the other, and then you go and clean out your bird bag, and like you don't touch the same colored bird twice. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounds like quite the
Shoot,
experience.
shooting a limit in Hell's Canyon is really, really, really difficult. But shooting a mixed bag in Hell's Canyon is not that not that hard to do at all.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah,
And if
that's
you want to
quite the
go there,
experience.
I can take you to a place where if you want to chase chukars, free chucker habitat all afternoon, we can have the number of opportunities that it would take you to sink a limit. Uh, but by the fifth or sixth trip up and down that canyon, especially knowing that like there's probably a rough grouse down there if we just go down there, you kind of get distracted with other things.
Yeah, right. I mean, it makes sense. And yeah, I couldn't turn that down. That's just amazing. I mean, before this conversation, I'd never heard of Hell's Canyon, but I mean, wow, man, it sounds like quite the experience of literally everything in the hunting aspect. I mean, wow.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing I've ever done for money for sure. Um, I feel very, very privileged to get to spend as much time down there as I do. It's a permitted river in the summer, so you got to put in for a lottery to be able to draw to go down at high water, and then the permit season ends the day that Idaho Chucker season opens. But then you still got to want to be down there in October. You got to have a little bit of know-how. or a guide to get down below a certain point. If you're, if you're a fair oarsman on any other Northwest river, uh, I can probably sit behind you and talk you through the big ones on Hell's Canyon. They're not complex. They're just really, really big.
That makes sense. Wow, that's great, man. Thank you for sharing a little bit
Yeah,
about that.
it does create a little bit of a barrier to entry. Yeah, I could talk about House for forever.
Well, I'd love to come and have that opportunity to hunt alongside you at some point because I mean, wow, man, you've sold it for me.
Yeah, come see me, man.
Yeah, and kind of segueing into the next part. I mean, it's you and your wife, Callie. Just kind of want to talk a little bit about that. How you influenced her and how she influenced you in your guys's relationship of hunting.
Yeah, so Callie was a vegetarian when we met.
Really?
Yeah. Um, and then not not terribly long after we started hanging out, I started bringing her around my family. Uh, and my dad only gave me a little bit of warning one day when I was like, gonna take my new girlfriend out to dad's house for breakfast and hang out with the family. He's like, "Oh yeah, we got a bunch of people over. It'll be fun." And didn't really bother to tell me, but they were cutting up my uncle's mule deer in the kitchen.
Oh, that's great.
I walked in with my vegetarian girlfriend, and myself, I'm expecting this to not go very well. But Callie is, she's always been an anatomy nerd. She's a doctor now, but even back then, she was really into biology and anatomy and stuff. So that was how she could relate. she, she walked in and was like, "Oh, can I help? I know how to do this." And my dad handed her a front shoulder off of this mule deer, and she proceeded to start dissecting it rather than butchering it.
Okay.
And so they they gave her a piece of meat that was a little bit less complex. And then I proceeded to be like, "No, honey, we're making food out of this. I know you don't really know what that looks like."
We ain't in the cadaver lab.
Yeah, right. So she didn't want to be rude, and so she tried some venison, and then she was like, "Actually, this is pretty good." Uh, and then after that, she kind of had like a, "Well, if you catch it or kill it, then I'll eat it. That's fine." Um,
Wow,
and
that's great.
she decided she wanted to come deer hunting with us a couple of times and was nearly successful. After that, and then when I started running around with the guys I was training pointing dogs with, she just was so jealous that we got to go run around with the dog, because we'd come home and the dog was really cute. French Brittany's are like a hamster; they're adorable. Uh, so she got to hang out with this dog and was like, "Oh, this dog's so cute." And then we tell all these stories about hunting with the dog. And so she finally was like, "All right, I'm going to sign up for a women's pheasant hunt through the Oregon Hunters Association. Uh, you guys can come or not." And so she, borrowed my shotgun and a bunch of gear and went out and did this pheasant hunt that was attended to by volunteers. And after that, it was like, all right, maybe Callie should just come with us whenever she wants to. Now, if she's going to go start planning to hunt with other people, we should just invite her with us. And so she just kind of was in the field with us all the time after that. But she, didn't grow up hunting, so she didn't feel like she had that predatory instinct, or like really knew how to be in the field with guns and other people and all of that. So she spent a lot of time standing back and watching. And through the standing back and watching, she started writing, uh, just to kind of get her thoughts on paper and see if she could learn faster. And then the writing for herself turned into publishing a couple of how-to articles. The ones I'm sure you ran into a couple of those, uh, doing your research on her. and it just proceeded to snowball from there. She filled out uh, like a product survey or something for Project Upland. I don't know, in 2019 or 2020, and all of the, I guess, participants in the survey were entered into a raffle. And I was like, oh, cool, a raffle, thinking like maybe somebody was going to win a backpack or a bird bag or something like that. And, no, they emailed Callie like 3 months later, and we had a 5-day free trip to a private pheasant ranch, all wild birds, but all private property in South Dakota. So we drove over in the middle of a snowstorm and shot pheasants in snowdrifts for 5 days. And yeah, Callie took to it like a fish to water. Mm. A well published upland writer.
That's an amazing story. I mean, it kind of reminds me, it's like, man, she's just like Charlie in that way. Give her the opportunity and she's going to run with it.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's, she got so into it through writing about it. She started talking to some of the other writers, and people were giving her encouragement from all over the place. All over the country, Canada. Even some bird hunters in Europe were like, "Hey, it's really cool to see like an adult lady first time hunter just be brutally honest about like this is how it feels getting into it." So she had a bunch of positive feedback that just kind of kept her at it, and through that enthusiasm, we just we ended up doing it a lot and ended up with good dogs. And then because I had good dogs and good friends, I ended up guiding. So
And the rest was history.
yeah, anything else, just like anything else, if you decide you're gonna pursue it that hard, something will come of it eventually.
Yeah, of course. And now we're looking at you guys being mom and dad. What do you see the future like now that you have your son in the picture?
Well, I'm gonna take this season off, and just be, stay at home dad for the winter, which my wife's a doctor, so I'm blessed to have the financial freedom a little bit to just be stay at home dad uh, for this winter and the spring. So that I'm really excited for. It's been pretty fun. It's been exhausting, but it's been pretty fun having a little one around. Um, we took him at day 5 of life and walked him around his first pheasant marsh. And this afternoon, which is whatever day 9, I think. Today's the 20th?
Yeah.
Yeah. So today's day 9, and we took him up into the Cascades and went and looked for mushrooms today. You know, had a pretty good walk up through the mountains with him. So I think at this pace we've started early enough that he hasn't really had any choice but to end up a little bit like one of us.
He's bound for success now.
Yep.
I mean, he was born on opening day of the bird hunt, so I mean, it's
The opening day. Yeah, he was born at 3:32 a.m. on opening day.
he's meant for it. He got an early start for sure.
Oh yeah. The nurses were chuckling when I looked at him and was like, normally I'd be stepping my dogs in my car and driving east right now.
That's awesome. I love that. Oh, wow. That is awesome, man. Well, I mean, this has been great. Everything that you said, man, this has been a great episode, and I'm excited for everybody to be able to listen and hear what you've been able to share from your dogs, your relationship with your wife when it comes to hunting, and uh, just your guiding experiences. I mean, this has just been great. Kind of wrapping it up, I've been asking everybody who's come onto the podcast what kind of advice they would give to upland game hunters or upcoming upland game hunters, or maybe new to the hobby. Do you have any advice for these guys?
Know your local laws and complain about them to the people in charge.
That's great. I love that.
it doesn't take that much poking and prodding, especially in a small place, to make a little bit of a difference. We lose huntable property, be it public land being sold off or private land that was open to public access, again, being sold off and then closed. We've seen a lot of that in Oregon in the last couple of years with ground that used to be public timberland that is now private timberland, or was private timberland with public access, and now it's either permitted access or just locked gates. And we lose all of that much faster than we get it back. So every bit that we lose is that much less that we have and that our kids will have. It is very, very hard to get public land, or it's very hard for the public to reacquire land once it's been sold privately, and then once that private land's been developed, it's impossible to reconvert it. So
Right.
build up, not out. Be nice to your farmers. Complain to your legislators.
Right. I mean, we've heard this before, and we've heard it again from you today. I mean, it's so important if we want to be able to keep this in the future. And I mean, of course, for you, looking at it now in a different perspective with your son coming up, I mean, it's so important to be good stewards of our land. And I mean, especially lately, I mean, I live here in Utah. I don't know how many of you guys have heard, and I don't know if you have, with Mike Lee. Yeah.
You guys are at the forefront, and I have called Mike Lee's office personally several times.
Yes.
This can do that too.
Please do. And like you said, when we speak up, I mean, they've heard us once, and I mean, they're gonna come back and do it again. But I mean, like I said, it was kind of a turning point for me as a hunter, and that's kind of what kind of helped boosted my idea of doing this podcast, is to bring the community together as uplanders, and I mean hunters in general, because of things like this. Because the motto of Bird Camp Radio is the voices of the uplands, and it's guys like you who come onto this podcast, share your stories, your traditions, who you are and what you stand for as a person and an individual, as well as an uplander. I mean, it's guys like you that are able to allow us to continue to do so, because each voice matters. I mean, without a voice, we don't have a community, and I couldn't echo those words any more than what you just did, man.
Yeah, man. I gotta turn that on its ear and give you credit back. Like I'm a guy. People are stuck in my boat. If they don't want to listen to me talk about conservation, they can plug their ears. You went out and created a platform. So hats off to you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and I mean, I appreciate your time. I mean, this has been great. It's already flown by so fast. I feel like we just started this conversation. I just look forward to get to know you better, and if anybody wants to get to know you, they know where they can find you as well. But thank you once again, Tanner, for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I hope we could talk again sometime.
Now, before you go, you know the drill. Earlier at the beginning of this podcast, we did the game Rapid Fire Around the Campfire, where we drilled Tanner with a few questions about himself and his upland game experiences, and now we need to release his time. Tanner, your time was 35.52, which now puts him at the top of the leaderboard, with Eli Howard in second at 36.01 and Robbie Mulligan at 51.84. That's your leaderboard. Thank you again, everybody, for listening to Bird Camp Radio. You know where to find us. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Bird Camp Radio. Don't forget to go follow, like, and rate us on the podcast. And please invite others to come and listen to the podcast. Thank you again. You've been listening to Bird Camp Radio, where the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and shelf rock ledges always call us back. Until next time, keep your dogs close, your shot true, and your campfire stories ready to share. We'll see you back at camp. Don't miss out on the next episode where we'll host our next guest on the podcast. You don't want to miss this one. Thank you.